We have good evade. We are good evade.
There we go.
Hello, Michael Knight.
We say good
How are
morning
you?
to each other. He's New York Vinnie. I'm Michael Knight, and you are the audience, such as you are, such as it is. It's Monday. The scores are in. It was a beautiful weekend, and that's why they play the games, Vinny. That's why they play them. I wouldn't have given you $5 for the 49ers chances. They just look like with their injuries, and then in the first 5 minutes, George Kittle goes down and he's out for the rest of the season with an obvious Achilles. It's
Yeah, it's a
it
shame.
was a sad start to the game, and I'm just going, this can't get any worse. And I was right. It had gotten about as awful as it could get. It did get better, strangely enough, but it couldn't have gotten much worse.
Well,
So I salute the 49ers. Hell of a game. Hell of a
yeah,
comeback.
I give a lot of credit too, man. Listen. Um, I didn't think I didn't go along with the popular opinion that they couldn't win that game. It was like it was like a big miracle that they won the game. Well, I don't know about that. They've been doing that all year. Now,
Right.
how they have pulled it out, the different ways that the 49ers have been able to do it. You and I always talk about the Mike Tomlin principle: next man up. Your backup players should be able to, just jump right into the slot. But
It's not that way.
it's not in reality. It's not that way. But there is something to be said for that. The idea that a coach puts in somebody's head that they can do that.
They must.
That they must. When you are charged by a coach with getting in there and being the next man up, being the guy that the team is depending on. I mean, Lou Pinella used to do it all the time.
Sure.
I mean, he was the master craftsman at doing that.
And it keeps the team ready too. And the team
son,
knows
we're gonna need you today, and you got to go out there and you got to sit in that bullpen, and you're gonna think that there's moments where I'm not gonna look at you out there, but come the sixth or seventh inning. Believe me, I'm going to come out and get you.
I expect you to perform.
And I expect you to be not just as good as Randy Johnson, but be better than Randy Johnson. And that's why Lou used to get so frustrated when a guy like who was the guy? Oh, he had one of the best lines in that I ever heard the playoffs. Was it now? I can't remember if it was, I think it was Sterling Hitchcock in the playoffs in 97. We were in New York, and it was a cold weather game, and Hitchcock lost the game. And
They put Lou in a tight spot.
and it put them in a tight spot. And a reporter said to him, well, I let me say this beforehand because this happens to me sometimes, and I want to put the story out there, put it out there right. It may have been Andy Bennis that he said this about, and not Sterling Hitchcock. So it's one of those two guys who pitched the game, and my mind just isn't letting me know which one it was right now. But that's not the point of the story. The point of the story was one of the reporters said to Lou, well, Hitchcock said that it was a cold weather game, and he doesn't pitch well in the cold weather. And Lou looks up at the reporter and says to him across the desk, as Lou used to sit there, sitting kind of back with his cigarette down here, and the fucking guy is from Minnesota. If he doesn't know how to pitch in a cold weather game,
where am I going to get someone more acclimated than a dude from Minnesota?
So I'll have to look up who it was. Was it Hitchcock or was it Andy Bennis?
The boys from Minnesota know how to warm up. They have to.
Yeah, they got it. But that was the basic premise of Lou's thing is don't give me that bullshit excuse that you can't pitch in the cold weather, which he had said to some reporter in the post game, in the thing, and Lou didn't take it kindly because Lou played in Yankee Stadium.
He took it
And,
personally.
probably ran into more than a few games where it was too cold to play, where he was blowing on his hands. Because as we all know, Lou is not used to cold weather games, having been brought up in Ybor City, Florida, or Ybor City, or whatever the hell you call it.
The long and short of this is managers know that you're supposed to be ready to go, regardless of the weather, regardless of the mud, regardless of the rain, regardless of the standings, for that matter.
Yeah, the job of the manager is also to know which guys can't go in that situation, so you don't pick them. Now, I don't know what was going on yesterday between the head coach of your Philadelphia Eagles, Cipriani, and one of his players,
Brown.
but early in the game, what was it? Who was it?
Brown,
yeah, because you know what I'm going to talk about. Because the coach saw fit to go down to where Brown was standing and give him a couple of words of encouragement.
Yeah, right. That's what it was.
He wanted to let him know that he felt for him in his situation, and he will take it up with management after the game today. But for now, could you just please go out there and do what we ask you to do?
Before we trade you to the Charlotte.
Right, before you're a Jet. I mean, you see that road. Look out Lincoln Financial Field. That elevated structure there, that's I-95. If you get on that,
and don't get off, just get on.
Don't get off until you see the Frank Sinatra rest area. You'll be at the Meadowlands. And that's where you'll be going for your games next year.
Don't expect too much.
To the football equivalent of the Gulag, of Siberia, of the worst we can think. But for now,
Jimmy Hoffa liked it, but he was one of the rare exceptions.
Well, he was cold already, so it didn't matter to him.
He got pretty good seats.
He didn't play his games in Minnesota.
No,
anyway,
he played all his most dangerous games in New Jersey. That's what cost him.
Well, Detroit actually is where Detroit and Western Pennsylvania was where most of his most dangerous games were played in with some of the boys there that didn't take kindly to some of the things that Hoffa tried to.
I don't know if you can see this. You see the Pope in his Chicago Bear outfit.
Love the Pope, man. You know, it's just so cool having an American Pope.
Yeah.
Where did you find that? I want to put that on my, my Facebook.
It's Tom Skilling on Facebook.
That's precious, man.
Although I think if you probably search Pope, you could probably find this image around and about. There he is in his bear outfit.
I mean, did you ever think in 1,000 years that you would open up your, a magazine or a phone or some piece of communication and see the titular head of the Catholic Church,
Chicago Bear Pope,
dressed in not even in any sports memorabilia type of deal? Right. Although in Pittsburgh, I have seen vestments of Pittsburgh Steeler colors. They are readily available in Pittsburgh Steeler colors. So there's a serious connection between the church and the Pittsburgh Steeler fans, as was evidenced last week when the priest went romping through the
blessing of the end zone.
The end zone, which I fear that now will become a regular occurrence at what are there now? Eight or 10 teams left. It will probably be a regular occurrence at all of those teams, all of those stadiums. So it won't count for anything anymore.
Get me a priest and keep him handy.
Exactly. But in Pittsburgh, that happens. We talked about that. That's like a thing. That's a regular occurrence. Like here, they have the blessing of the fishermen when the fishing fleet goes out. And
remember once at KKCY, it was a blessing time, and we had a priest come in. You could bring your pet to the station.
Yeah.
And we had it blessed. And I brought my dog, Lulu, Crazy Lulu, the black lab who took a poop in the hallway because she sensed that it was right time to do it in the right place to do it. She knew what was going to happen at the city before I did, naturally. So she symbolically accepted her blessing because that was what she was there for, but left the poop because she saw something in the future that needed a commentary.
In other words, she knew that the poop was going to hit the fan at some point in that station.
Prepare the fan was her advice. So the weekend was sad in terms of Bob Weir, happy in terms of the 49ers. Bob Weir likes to sing the national anthem. He did many times with Tim, with members of the Grateful Dead or Huey Lewis or whoever was around. Pablo Cruz could have gotten in on it. Local bands would get together and do that difficult 3-part harmony. And Bob Weir was always there for the local teams, never too busy to take part in the pregame festivities.
Yeah, I think he might have been introduced more by Michael Pritchard than any other music personality, because you're right, he was always there for the national anthems. And they were, and obviously the Grateful Dead was much more associated. I always thought, now you probably know this better than me, I always thought that the Grateful Dead was much more associated with the Giants than they were with the 49ers.
I think you're right, mostly because Weir was a big baseball fan.
Yes, synergy between the two. As a matter of fact, now every team has them, but for many years, the only team that had a Grateful Dead T-shirt with the team logo on it was the Giants.
Yeah,
I remember. What did they come out? Those in like 85 or 84, something like that.
Yeah, it was early for signature wear.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you normally got. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you'll remember this. The only place that you could get one of those shirts was at the Giants team store in downtown
Union Square,
San Francisco. Yeah, what's that? I'm trying to remember that the street it was on. It was on Stockton.
Stockton.
It was on Stockton, and
Stockton as it runs through Union Square.
Yeah, and the selection. I mean, it was a small store, and the selection was not, like you go to a store today and you see, 16 different types of shirts and this and that. Back then, there was, just a certain type of shirt that you got. As a matter of fact, I still have my Giants sweatshirt that I got back in 85 or something like that. That's the old Giants logo. The pin G, that stalk G with the yeah. I mean, it was and that's where you could get them. You couldn't get them at Saramonte. You couldn't get them at a department store. The only place I ever remember you were able to buy a shirt like that was at the Giants team store, and there was the one in Union Square,
It's
And one,
fascinating how little they had in terms of swag for your team. It was just so limited that you wouldn't believe the lack of imagination that the PR people, that the team itself, in terms of its marketing, could think of. What would you want? You'd want a cap, you'd want a T-shirt, you'd want all those elements of your fandom, which now seems so obvious. And in those
yeah,
days,
you
it just
couldn't buy
wasn't
a
there.
jersey. You couldn't buy a jersey probably until 85 or 86. Um, I bought a Mets jersey. As a matter of fact, you know the jersey. You wore the jersey on
Tug
your favorite
McGraw, number
cross.
45.
Yeah, the Golden Gate Bridge. And that particular shirt, I had to go to a place called Jerry Crosby in Madison Square Garden,
Hmm.
which is where their store was. And they didn't have a store, it was a room in Madison Square Garden where teams, because they were the official outfitters for the teams. So when the equipment manager for the Mets needed a jersey, he went to Jerry Crosby and Company.
Good grief.
And they sent the stuff out to Shea Stadium or on the road. And you just didn't have the stuff. So if you look at that shirt, which I still have, the tag inside of it says Jerry Crosby, Madison Square Garden, New York.
That's a collector's item.
Now it's a, I believe it's a Spalding shirt, but that's the way it went in those days. And well, I mean, for many years it was considered stupid to wear a shirt that identified you as a baseball player to a baseball game.
That's you in a vulnerable position vis-a-vis the other fans who could take exception with your Mets shirt if you were in Philadelphia, say, or
Right.
if you were in the Bronx, for that matter, at a Yankees game wearing a Mets jersey, you might be received not as warmly as you would like.
Right. And you saw people wearing like a Mets t-shirt or a Giants jacket. Jackets were popular, remember? I mean, those satin jackets.
Yes, team
Uh,
the team jacket, the warm up jacket, or whatever they call
yeah,
it.
which also had to be bought from Jerry Crosby. I still have my 1960. This one I bought in 70, sometime in the middle 70s. It has, again, the Jerry Crosby logo inside of it. On one side, the starter logo on the other side. And you know, but that's what you got. You're actually buying a piece of team equipment. You weren't buying a replica. You're buying a piece of team equipment. I have a bag that I bought from Jerry Crosby. That was the bag that they give to players to put their gloves and their equipment in. You usually see them stacked up on a cart, and they don't have a logo on it. It just says New York Mets on it, like a piece of luggage. Anyway, I know I got off on a tangent there, but let's go back to Bob Weir. Uh, I mean, the association that we had, much more you than me, because you grew up a lot more around it than I did, um, of sports and the Grateful Dead, and Weir and just all of those guys that were in the Dead or or around them, that lived in the hate, that humped their equipment, that showed up in New Year's Eve at the Fillmore with Bill Graham. coming out of the rafters at midnight.
It was Bill Graham's birthday over the weekend. It would have
Yes.
been, and so the combination of Bob Weir's death and the remembrance of Bill Graham, I think he would have been 90 something, was noted that the two events crossed each other in the moonlight.
It was now was Bob Weir sick? I didn't know that that he was
Without
even
being
ill.
clear, he had lung cancer. Cancer, when it gets to the lungs, is awful because it spreads.
Yeah.
And he had beaten the initial growth of the cancer, but was suffering from a lung problem that came as a result of the treatment or the ongoing fight against the cancer. So, without having the exact nature of his cause of death, I can't say, but he said it wasn't lung cancer, but a lung problem as a result of fighting the cancer.
Yeah, that's you know, the sign of just the sign of that band is that, today, just the mention of two or three of the members that were associated with the Dead saying that they would show up at a venue to play, even if it wasn't the Dead, it was, people associated with the band, would pretty easily pack 40,000 people
Yeah.
into a venue. They were joked about, but revered. I didn't get their music all the time. I mean, I got it, but I mean, there were some Dead shows that I went to and said, time to go.
Yeah. It was beyond music. Their direct appeal was musical, but other than music. Fascinating to hear Jerry Garcia just talk, just speak on any subject, just respond to questions, and try to explain the culture around the band, which they grew to accept, that it grew also increasingly difficult to explain. Why did people become Deadheads? Why did they follow this band? Why was this band so important to them? What was it about their music and the membership in the band and the musicians' personal lives and personal commitments so attractive to the thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people who followed them religiously? And I
And
don't
they
have an answer.
followed him
I
religiously.
don't have an answer for that. I just, there's no logical reason why that happened.
I mean, it always. I mean, we always think of the scenes from any '60s hippie movie of the Volkswagen van, and people packed into the van going somewhere to see some band, either on an overnight trip or a month-long journey, and you could find those people pretty easily. Just find where the Dead were going to play, make a circle of 500 miles, and hang out in that circle for a while.
And you'll have
You'll meet them.
company. You'll meet them. There was a Grateful Dead story in this Facebook today that is about the Dead, but is also about something else entirely. And that is in Leadsville, Colorado, marijuana dispensary caught on fire. And the whole this little town was covered in smoke that was the kind smoke, marijuana smoke. And I know that Bob Weir appreciated it, and the people of Leadville appreciated it, but it just reminds me that the Dead are always with you somehow, offering you a gift, a way around, a leg up. And in this case,
Yeah.
a town covered in marijuana smoke, the best that money could buy.
It was a family. It was a community. it wasn't a group of fans. It was a community of people. The dead, um, the dead, they took care of their community. They brought along. I remember this now. Again, you'd probably be more versed in it than I did. But they fed many of their fans that would travel to different shows. They would have kitchens set up. They would have medical facilities. Who's the guy? I was trying to remember his name last night. The guy that used to run the Haight Ashbury Free Clinic. Was it
Dr. Hip.
Yeah, but his name was Serge, was it? Or
Hypnosis.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he had a but he and he was very well funded by the Grateful Dead. People got scads of free medical care and drug treatment from
Yeah. And reviews on the acid, which ones to take, which ones not to take,
right.
and the reasons why.
And it just always struck me, being a resident of the Haight for a long time. It just always struck me as what a great thing. It wasn't just that they were taking the money and running. Yeah, they were taking money and they were making money. No lie about that. They deserved it. They worked hard for it. But they, more than many other bands, they put back into it. They tried to make sure that the people that showed up for those shows had something to eat and had
Safe place to sleep.
a place to sleep and some kind of medical care. If you got hurt or if you overdosed or if something happened, that the band made that happen, not the record company.
In fact, and speaking of record companies, the Grateful Dead was among the very first to manage all their own recordings, to record everything they ever did, issue it later, issue one cut, issue nothing, issue whatever they felt like. They would put together their best picks and do CD releases. They have a library of hundreds of concerts available for purchase at the unusually well recorded projects that the Grateful Dead were responsible for. They had their own soundboard, their own recording, their own record company, essentially, and it was a busy one. They were constantly releasing new
Well, they always had stuff.
product.
Always, some derivative of that band seemed to always be out on the road, even after members have died from that band. There were still, they probably recorded everything they ever did after a certain date.
I think so.
Much like Springsteen, where just everything goes down on tape. We'll worry about it later. We'll hire somebody to pick out what's good and what's bad. And that got Dave Marsh off the streets.
So Bobby Weir made it to 78 years of age, and you got to think that the odds were against him getting that far down the road with a lot of the things he did to entertain himself while he was alive. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm assuming that I'm right about that.
Well, I have a little bit of insight into that. Only because I lived around the corner from Mickey Hart for a couple of years. And and got to know him a little bit because of his wife, who was Mary Holloway from KFOG, who was an on-air personality at KFOG.
And K Tim before that.
Yeah, K Tim before that, and also had the neighborhood up in up in smoke, I guess you could say, because he had 20 Tibetan monks living at his house. But
they were a very good infield, and they chanted well.
They were good for the neighborhood. And so the back of my house abutted against their property. There was a hill, and I was on one side of the hill, and they were on the other side of that hill, and with a peak in the middle. So it wasn't impossible to, in the summer, hear stuff going on there. I got to know Mary pretty well through our mutual friend, Rosemary Grayshock, who was good friends with Mary Holloway. And, I always, I told a story on Facebook yesterday. I think you remember this, of when, one of the really great things about living in Mill Valley and Southern Marin County, was the fact that there were a lot of musicians that lived there. But there were also a lot of musicians who would go there and show up from different places. And if you went down to the town square in Mill Valley that used to be, where there's now a bookstore, that used to be a train station, you would always see people, at after 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, out in the town square playing music and jamming. And more often than not, well, no, I wouldn't say more often than not. I'll have to use another phrase there. Many times, if you looked into the people that were playing, there was maybe a member or 2 or 3 of the Grateful Dead playing with those people, because they like to go out there. And we talked about community before, and they were in touch with their fans. They played with their, they took it to the extreme of picking up somebody's guitar, and it wouldn't be unusual to hear Sugar Magnolia and somebody playing from the band in there. It was just how that band meshed with the community. And there was no fear of somebody jumping you, no fear of over exuberance of people. No feeling like, that you had to, this guy, now that he knows who I am, he's not going to leave me alone. That kind of thing. It was, I don't know. It was just, like I said, it was a community.
It was cool.
These guys didn't have entourages, so they didn't have, they had a few people that helped them with equipment until it got so big that you couldn't handle it anymore. But it was a very unique situation in rock and roll, I always thought.
Still is.
Yeah, and they managed to keep that. They managed to not lose that, right? I mean, my friend JD, goes to Dead shows. Has been going to Dead shows for years and knows them and has jammed with them and stuff like that. And, he knew.
You knew not to drink the punch unless you were feeling frisky.
Right. You weren't playing. You weren't fooling around with people that were playing at this.
you were professional deadheads.
Yeah, you were fooling around with people that were committed to it. It was a religion. It was surely an experience that you were going to have, and but yet they, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm just going by a lot of stuff that I had seen firsthand and knew and heard from people, and it just seemed to be, I don't know. It just seemed to be a group of people who are able, despite differences, despite wanting to do other projects, wanting to do different things, that they always had the time and the inclination to be with each other first. There was a loyalty, there was a friendship there for most people. And I don't know about everybody. I don't know every move everybody made, but it seemed to be a tightly knit group of people who had a genuine affection for each other.
That's true. Respect. You were safe.
Yeah, yeah. They felt safe with each other. They felt safe with their fans. Um, and their fans, for the most part, didn't seem like they let him down. They gave him that respect, that
You
space
had, you,
to.
had a, you had an obligation to be cool with the situation. It
Yeah,
was your responsibility.
it's like if you meet the Beatles, you don't ask them for an autograph. You ask somebody that works with the big. Hey, can you get me his? Can I? Is it okay if I ask him? Uh, you know, um, you just, there's a respect that you're expected to have. Um, and then selfies came along and ruined the whole thing. Just made it impossible. But
You're not as cool as you once were. You're still on the cool side, but this business of the selfies has taken the dividing line between personality and fan and how you act in a social situation where you're meeting the band for the first time. All the coolness is being bleached out of it thanks to the world of selfie and the call of the post you're about to put together based on the band member you just met.
yeah, of social media. If you want to do a documentary someday, if you're an aspiring filmmaker, and you want to do a documentary someday about how social media has ruined music, or being a fan of music, just sit down and ask anybody who survives of the Grateful Dead. They can probably tell you some great stories.
Remember,
How different.
we were trying to find the encampment in Las Vegas, and we were down there because the Dead were in town. They weren't staying at any particular hotel, but they were staying in like a parking lot at the county fairgrounds or something. We drove out there looking for them, never did find them.
Yeah,
That's when it was 116 at night in Vegas, and we're in a convertible. It was like driving behind a hot bus. And there was no bus in front of you. It just felt like you were behind a hot bus.
were Are you aware that, which I always love this little tidbit? Are you aware that Bob Weir's full name is Robert Hall Weir?
No.
Yes. For those of you who are familiar with the Clothier, Robert Hall in New York, that'll ring a bell for you. Just a little oddity. High quality economy. All Robert Hall's stores open till 9 o'clock, except Sunday. Uh,
Robert Hall.
Robert Hall.
Well, my picks in terms of football were pretty accurate. The one major mistake I made was I picked the 49ers to win in the first round. That was obviously wrong. And I picked the Oregon Ducks to continue their winning ways, and that was very wrong. They didn't have a prayer against Indiana.
Yes, I remember
The strength of the Fernando delivery, his presence on the field, his accuracy with his passing, his leadership on the field, really quite extraordinary. It was as if the pros were playing the college kids when Indiana takes the stage. It was impressive, and it was one-sided. It was professional to the full extent of the application of that word to a college team. Their organization, their leadership, their play calling, their presence on the field, their attitude toward their opponents, all very impressive. It's going to be tough. Going to be tough to beat those guys. But the Miami Hurricanes have found their strength at the right time of the year, and it should be a great game. I'm still picking the Canes.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I went with I went with Indiana, and I'll stick with Indiana.
A wise move.
I just think that this is one of those teams that just looks so well put together and have such a degree of leadership. On that team, from right up and down the line. I'm not going to tell you that I know everything about Indiana. I have a couple of friends who are absolute Indiana disciples. I wouldn't even call them fans. I would call them disciples of all sports Indiana. And I'm very happy for them this morning because they haven't tasted this type of victory in this arena. Certainly since the days of Bobby Knight and the basketball championships in the early 80s.
But you like to throw folding chairs because they sail better. Not like a frisbee, but close to a frisbee.
This is when Bobby Knight seemed to still be somewhat of a sane person.
When was that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's how long ago it was. Yeah. But there's just there's a sense to me at least that this Indiana team has it together, and they play all for one for all of the cliches that you could squeeze out of Tom Brady in one evening.
I thought it was funny to listen to Tom Brady and the guy that called the game for Fox as they tried to put down the 49ers steadily through the broadcast. They had to keep revising their judgment based on the performance on the field. They just kept fighting. They just kept catching up. They just kept kicking another field goal. They kept competing. They kept themselves in the game. And despite what Fox and CBS and all the other now slanted sports delivery, I don't want to call them stations, networks, organizations, despite their preconceived notion about who's supposed to win, who's supposed to lose, and what their job is to shape your support based on their own uneven delivery of the balls and strikes and the counts of the game, the 49ers won and put them in the position of having to say nice things about them. Fox having to say nice things about the 49ers, I mean, and they painted themselves into a corner. You never take a side in a situation like that, because that's
No.
what will happen to you. You get bit on the ass sooner or later, if not sooner. And the 49ers did that to the Fox broadcast. So for that, I'm grateful. I don't know if they're going to be able to come back and beat the Seahawks in the upcoming game, but that's their challenge, to go to Seattle, play on the road, and beat the guys who knocked them out of contention at the end of the season.
Yeah, there was
just irony that it has to be on Fox and with Tom Brady doing his Trump delivery.
Yeah, I just I don't I'm not impressed with Brady as a play by. I mean, he doesn't hold a candle to Tony Romo or to Troy Aikman. I mean, if that's the standard.
And Troy Aikman is not a gifted speaker. He does not put his commentary together in a smooth.
But he gets the points across. Not great, but because he's Troy Aikman, I guess he gets a bit of a pass, and is much better now than he was when he first started.
He'll say, we talked about it 10 times in every game. Troy, what do you think of the play action pass that we're seeing with the Steelers today? Well, we talked about it, he'll say. That's his answer. We talked about it. I'm not going to answer your question. Just going to say that we talked about it. I'm not going to say what we talked about or what subject was or why we talked about it, or why, instead of answering your question, I'm just saying that we talked about the answer to your question. It makes no sense. He says it 10 times in every game, and it's just a non sequitur that should be fine. $10,000 fucking fine. That would be when I take over ESPN. Whoever says we talked about it pays $10,000 fine. I'm taking it right out of your check.
Well,
don't tell me you didn't. Don't tell me you didn't know.
Say that. I unfortunately, it's one of the things that I try to break, but I will. And it's funny because it's these executives, and I've had more than one program director, and you've sat in these meetings where you've been told, well, you don't take enough credit for saying that, or you don't take enough credit for doing that, or you don't take enough credit for whatever it is that you did. If you said that you thought you were going to, you were predicted that you were going to win a game, and you didn't, just repeat it every 5 minutes when the team that you did say was going to win the game did win the game.
Reminding the audience that you call it.
Right. That is a way, according to some pencil neck geek, that you build credibility with an audience.
Well,
I never thought that was. I always thought that you were supposed to let it stand on itself. But
it would be something that a program director would think would be important, to the point of embarrassing you to actually call upon your own predictions to make that an element of a constant recurring element of your show. Not very interesting.
Right. I mean, I just don't think that it's very becoming of somebody to sit there and tell you time and time again that you predicted it right, or you said that was going to happen, or you this. I told you it was going to happen. I mean, I think that's it's the sign of a blowhard. And I know that at times I have done that, and I know who actually got me into do that, because I didn't do that for a long time, and we had a program director who was insistent that you take credit for what you did. Well, I didn't play the game, so why should I take credit for anything? I watched it on TV like everybody else, or on the television, listen to it on the radio, or went to the ballpark. I didn't throw a ball, so I just think it's But these days, you're creating. You're not commentating on sports. You're making content,
Well,
and
is that what Stephen A is doing? Is he just making content?
well, that's what they believe that they're doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they believe that their piece of whatever they're doing is just as important as anything that any player on the field is doing.
It's the name of the
And
game. It's an embarrassing part of the broadcasting white underbelly.
yeah, I just I mean, I like to sit there in the seats and talk to my friends about it, but I don't have to. Um, it doesn't make me feel any more of a fan or any more of an observer of the game or any more of anything that I was right about it, except in certain cases. So I don't know, but I fall into that trap sometimes of saying, well, as listen, I think we talked about it last week, or I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago, and you're not putting it there for a time marker.
No,
You're putting
it's
it
just
there
it's just
because
it's just you're treading water when you say it.
yeah, you're just wanting to you're basically trying to tell the audience that I told you so.
It can be eliminated from your discussion with no harm done whatsoever. Nobody needs to know what you talked about, or that you talked about it, or what you said when you talked about it, or how you felt when you talked about it, or why you said when you talked about it that you wanted to talk about it. None of that means anything. It doesn't. It's just chicken feed. It's chicken scratch, and Troy Aikman's the worst of it. There's nobody that does it more often and with less meaning than Troy Aikman.
Except if you are of the belief that you should that you should that those things translate into hits, into clicks, into somehow measurement of people listening to your show.
Or that in the pregame show, you take notes and say, I hope during the game he references that element by saying that we talked about it. And that's all he says. It's 3rd and 14. They pass to the tight end. He gets the first down. Troy Aikman says, well, we talked about it. Talked about what? Tight ends, 3rd and long, the offense of the team, the condition of the field, the weakness of the defense. What did you talk about? What in the hell are you what are you talking about when you say you talked about it? Well, we talked about it. Fascinating. Thank you, Troy. Couldn't have gotten much further without hearing that you and Joe Buck talked about something. Given you're the play-by-play guy, that doesn't really surprise me. Oh, you mentioned that, did you? You talked about the defense. Fascinating. What did you say?
One of the great things, yeah. One of the great things about Joe Buck is that he's really taken on and managed to acquire all of the annoying habits of his father. I never really thought Jack Buck was all that great an announcer, to be honest with you.
He was a monotone.
He was.
And one thing that we're seeing over and over again, what we're seeing a lot of is the worst elements of broadcasting. Or here's a Buck truism: He introduces Troy Aikman, and Troy Aikman starts to speak. And Buck looks at the camera, smiles, looks at Troy Aikman, looks back at the camera, smiles, looks back at Troy Aikman. Now it's Monday Night Football tonight. It's the Texans and the Steelers. Watch what Joe Buck does when he introduces Troy Aikman. Hi, I'm Buck. This is the Hall of Famer, Troy Aikman. Tell us about the defense, Troy. Well, we talked about it. And he starts to talk. And Joe Buck looks at the camera during Troy Aikman's spiel, smiles, stops smiling, looks back at Troy, looks back at the camera, smiles apropos of nothing in the middle of somebody else's speech, and then looks back at the speaker. Watch how he does that. And now other play-by-play guys for Fox or wherever they happen to work are doing the same thing. They introduce the play-by-play guy. He says hello, says a few words. He introduces the color guy. The color guy starts talking. The play-by-play guy looks at the camera, smiles, looks back at the guy, and may do it twice, depending on how many times or how long the other guy talks. This is all because of Buck, who started this bullshit of looking and smiling. And it's spooky because it's distracting, unnecessary. And why would you do such a thing? Why would you, during somebody else's speech, it's like doing rabbit ears behind them when they're speaking. It's a distraction. It offers nothing. It produces nothing. It's just a distraction that I don't understand. It's because it's so visual, and it's happening while somebody else is trying to talk or answer the question you just asked them.
Right. Yeah,
I guess I find it annoying.
No, I think you're right, because I do too. I mean, I think, Michael, these guys are all trying to find the thing that's going to make them stand out in a sea of I don't want to say mediocrity, because I don't think you get to be really mediocre and get to be on a national broadcast. I'm going to give people some respect that get to to get on a national network and call a game. I could probably do it if I had to sit there and do it, but it would be awful hard. I've done play-by-play before, and it's hard. It's not easy. And especially to do it at a level where you can keep everything moving, flowing, be conversational, and be able to make it interesting.
And don't forget, we talked about it then.
Right. I mean, I don't know that I ever heard Ralph Kiner, Lindsey Nelson, or Bob Murphy say something like, well, in the fifth inning, Lindsey, I told you about this young kid, Cranepool, who might get a hit in the fifth inning. You just never heard that. Or you never heard, a Red Barber lean into the microphone and say, well, if you remember, I told you in the seventh inning that in the fourth inning, Babe Ruth was going to get a hit.
We talked about it.
And trying to put the game to a place where they're predicting everything that happens.
It's the same thing that news anchors do, or reporters in the field do, or talking heads in the panel do. They preface all their comments by saying, I mean. What the fuck do you mean? You've been saying it for days. You say it all day. You say it now, you'll say it in 5 minutes, and the person that takes your place is going to say it. What do you mean when you say, yeah, I mean, and then they answer the question? The answer is 12. Yeah, I mean 12. Yeah, I mean, and then you say what you're going to say. And this is somehow universal. Everybody from CBS and CNN and MS Now and all the others all do it. They say, yeah, I mean, and then they get to the meat of their answer. And I don't understand it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got spread around. I don't know how it gets regurgitated every damn day. But there it is. You asked me what I think of the 49er game. I go, yeah, I mean, it was a great game, man. And we talked about it.
We
I
talked
picked
about how great a game it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. And it's fascinating that this happens to every reporter on every station across the country. Yeah, I mean, and then you begin your answer. You couldn't pay them to do that. You couldn't convert them by saying, what I want you to do, I'm going to pay you extra if you'll just start every sentence with, yeah, I mean. I know it seems silly and you're not going to want to do it, but stick with me. Everybody's going to do it soon. Yeah, I mean, and then answer the question. Can you do that? Yeah, I mean, I can.
Yeah, it sure ain't the way it used to be, Michael. That's for sure. But well, it'll be fun to watch. Well, I'm excited about watching tonight's game. Not I don't want to get ahead, even though we talked about it last week. I want to talk about it today so that we can talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
I want to, I just want to implore everybody that's listening to us to listen to us so that you can know what we talked about when these situations. So I don't have to keep track of all of this stuff. It's hard to keep track of what I talked about.
Well, we're free range chickens.
It's hard to tell you how right I was. Help me keep track of how right I am, will you?
Well, then, should we meet on Wednesday?
Yes, I want to. Yes, because we'll have stuff to talk about, I'm sure. And if not, we'll do what we do so well is make stuff up.
We can do that.
Always be good at that. I do want to congratulate my young nephew who has made it to school. He is now firmly ensconced in the dormitories at NYU.
He's living in the village.
No, he's living kind of in Kips Bay. Outside, it's he's close to in the 20s and Second, Third Avenue in that neighborhood, which is a building that I didn't know, or an area that I didn't even know that New York University had anything to do with, but they do. I guess when they took over Langone Medical Center, they acquired a whole bunch of buildings on the east side and turned them into dorms for kids who are interested in going there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, along with the police academy that was on, 17th and 17th or 18th and 2nd Avenue. And that whole Kips Bay development, which was developed in the 60s and the 70s. But he's there. And
what's he studying?
He's international studies, which I think is going to be a growth industry in the future.
It is for the next couple of weeks. I want to thank the Iranians for getting in the headlines. There's not much room in the headlines for anything but Donald Trump stuff. So congratulations on busting through with your own story of revolution, dissatisfaction, anger at the the nature of the economy in Iran, all things that Donald Trump's going to have to face in his own way here at home.
Well, I certainly hope that he can keep the he can do his best, the Iranians, to keep the Donald Trump, because even though it's the Iranians, it's still, I would rather listen to news about the Iranians than I would about Donald Trump.
I want to know how they turned off the internet. Maybe we could do that for a week or two.
Yeah, how did they get to do that? By the way, I don't know if you knew this. I had forgotten about it, but the NYU team has changed their team name.
What were they?
Were they not? They were some kind of. They weren't the Scarlet Knights. That was Rutgers or something like that. But there was something like that. They had some kind of warrioristic kind of name.
Was that St. John? Were they the Scarlet Knights?
No, they were the Indians, and then became the Red Storm. And it was some kind of night. I'm really wondering why I'm blanking on it. Anyway, they have changed their team name to the Violets.
Okay.
And
not the violins, but the violets.
The Violets, yes. And I don't know. I'm sorry that I feel this way, and I'm sorry that they did this, but I'm not feeling a team name called the Violets.
It doesn't sound like a team name. Even a funny one like this, Banana Slugs of Santa Cruz, or the Anteaters of Cal Irvine.
Yeah. I don't. It doesn't. It's not funny. It's not offbeat. It's one of those 64 crayons in a Crayola box.
Yeah. Burnt sienna.
What's the team mascot? Is it now there used to be
a flower?
Now I don't know why they did this. They were the Bobcats, which is kind of a cool name. But a few years ago they changed it. And I think it's just one of those things like our current administration, that they just change it for the hell of changing it. I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't grab me as anything. So,
I don't see the humor or the. I guess I don't see the point to change your name to something that only doesn't answer any questions. It only asks questions. Why did they do that? What were they hoping to achieve?
Now, the only thing that I find in reading about this a little bit more is that they wanted something. They deemed the colors. They deemed the school colors not intimidating. Their uniforms were not intimidating. They were violet. So they took, and in typical NYU fashion, because it's a school of many people that you really wouldn't want to go to a party with. They decided to come up with a nickname that brought in the the Bobcats, but not for an animal, but because the library is the Bobst Library, and the name of the team is derived from the fact that the catalog at the library is called the Bobcat or Bobst catalog. But as you will find in sports, and Confucius said this many times in his career,
He said we
don't
talked
go
about it.
too far up over anybody's head. So I'm going to have to get a Bobcats t-shirt of some kind. And I'm
I
definitely,
think so.
and I love my nephew. I've tried to think that I've had a good influence in his life. That I've gotten him. He's a good athlete. He's a smart kid, smarter than most of the people I've ever met in my life, to be honest with you. Definitely smarter than anybody I hung out with when I was his age. And but I don't know. I'm going to be searching the discount departments of the NY, the clearance page.
They got to get rid of those t-shirts somehow.
Yeah. Before they send them off to some Venezuela, because they're going to be looking for clothes down there.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be looking for something to filter the oil through. So be on the lookout for that. But I'm going to work on that today. That's my one of my things to work on today. All right, what do you say?
I'm going to wait for the Greenland t-shirts to come out. The new Greenland t-shirts. Those are going to be collector's items.
Now, are they going to have a separate uniform for the army in Greenland if we take over Greenland? Or will it be the same army uniform with a Greenland campaign ribbons or something?
I know they're going to try and come up with something memorable, but I think it'll probably be a abject failure. You can't get too fancy with your dress if you're Trump. Blue suit, red tie. Anything beyond that is too much of a challenge for his choice-making process. If he had 20 colors of 20 suits, he'd never get dressed in the morning because there'd be no way for him to make up his mind. Blue suit, red tie.
Yeah, he tends to buy those shorts that look like they're off the rack from the Big and Tall closeout outlet. You know the ones I'm talking about? They're usually white. They're usually see-through.
They're everything you don't want your shorts to be.
Right. If you're a big guy, especially if you're packing on a few extra pounds, and believe me, I know I have experience in this. I'm just not gonna pack my stuff on. Wear a pair of shorts that are just gonna look horrible. No Sansabelt.
Sammy Sansabelt would wear them.
I'm just gonna get a pair of shorts that fit loose, and hopefully a dark color. Don't wear white shorts. But luckily, I'm not in the Donald Trump fashion world.
Golf wear for discerning gentlemen.
Well, I mean, it's just the guys in his orbit all dress the same. They dress horrifically, and the women dress like whores.
Yeah, it's sad. Obvious commentary on the lack of spirit or self-respect that goes along with all their beliefs and deliveries and the way they conduct their business without self-respect.
Horrible. All right, I'll see you on Wednesday. Until then, of course, and that's provided the Lord is willing and the creek don't rise, and He allows me to see you on Wednesday. Go Steelers tonight. Let's
Definitely.
let's get that let's get that part of things taken care of, and let's hope that that's an exciting game, and that the next man up is the next man up, and he can remain up for a little while.
I'll see you then, Ben. We'll get together for a wacky Wednesday. Thank you.
Peace, love, and Manischewitz, pal.
I'll drink to that. What a wine.
All right, Mikey. I'll see you. Thank you all for listening to. We'll catch up with you on Wednesday morning at 10:10. Thanks so much for listening. Have fun watching the game tonight. Bye-bye.
See you guys.